Hello and welcome back to another episode of Creating Powerful Impact. I'm your host, Shay Wheat, founder of Grace and Ease Productions. And today I've got a special guest that I'm excited to introduce you to. Katie Hornor is an experienced speaker, best-selling author, and expat entrepreneur in a sleepy little seaside town in Mexico, who has inspired millions of people with her books, programs, and unique approach to business. Now get this, through her Flamingo Advantage Framework, I'll come back to that in my questions, for client experience and marketing, Katie has helped over 8,000 entrepreneurs learn to maximize the impact of their expertise by scaling their online programs without compromising their Christian faith, their core values, or their non-negotiables. Katie takes her inspiration from the quirky pink flamingo and believes your message matters. You were created to stand out, not blend in, and it is possible to find joy in doing work as worship. Please help me welcome Katie to the Creating Powerful Impact stage. What's up, Katie?
Hey, Shay. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm excited to chat with you because Flamingo is a very interesting way to approach business and look at business. I personally have my own story about a flamingo.
Oh,
Right? Not something you probably normally hear. I don't know, maybe you do because people are like, oh, flamingos, I'm attracted to that, right? But I would love for you to share with us before we dive into, client experiences and marketing and stuff. Exactly how are you creating impact in the world today?
well, our flamingo story started about 4 years ago on a little rented fisher boat that we took up the river from the coast here in Mexico to go see flamingos in the wild for the first time. And that trip has been the impetus to a rebranding for us and a real focus on what we are doing to help the entrepreneurs that we serve be able to stand out in their marketing, stand out in their client experience, and really embrace the part that makes them them and makes them unashamed to stand for who they are and serve fully in the way that they were created to serve in the marketplace. And so it's been an exciting ride.
I love it. I love it. My story around flamingos is totally different. I would, so here in America, middle America, actually, where some of my family lives, they have pink flamingos, like the plastic kind, just on the lawn. And I was like, what in the world? Because I'm California. I'm like, why in the world are there pink flamingos plastic everywhere? And, it just became like a running joke that they're like, you know what, Shay, when you get married, we're just going to have a whole bunch of pink flamingos all around during your wedding. I was like, no, you are not. That's not happening. And of course, I told this to my mother. She ran with it to the point where one birthday, they ended up having so many pink flamingos in my front yard. So they never leave me, but it just cracks me up when I saw that coming in. So,
well, I've never been a pink person, never been a flamingo person, right? It's sort of like they adopted us. And what we learned from studying them after we saw them, and it was just so impactful, is that there's so many correlations between an entrepreneur and a flamingo in the wild that can be made. And so those sort of business lessons started coming in nuggets. It went into a book that became a second book, and the Flamingo brand just really took off. And now I have people all over the world who send me, I saw a flamingo and thought of you today, or I just bought this because it reminded me of your book, and all these things. And so it's really something that has created a life of its own, and it's a lot of fun.
I love that. So speaking of flamingos and your Flamingo Advantage Framework, tell me about it. What is it? What's it entailed? How does it help with the client experience?
Well, your Flamingo Advantage, I think a lot of people might call that your special sauce. They might call it your unique selling position, right? It's really the thing that makes you. It's the thing that is undeniably you. And, you know, there are lots of other species of birds in the world. There are lots of, there's actually 6 species of flamingos in the world. And so even though the flamingo is surrounded by other birds in the atmosphere who do what they do, like do the same kind of actions day in and day out, there's still something that makes them unique. Every single flamingo has their own voice. And they know each other by their voice. The mates can recognize one another, the child, the baby bird recognizes the parents, and so forth. And in business, you have your own voice. Like there may be lots of other people out there doing what you do in general. I mean, that's proof of the market, right? But only you do what you do like you do. And so when we hone in on that, your special flamingo advantage, and when you're able to recognize it as an advantage, not a quirk or an oddity or something to be ashamed of, then you can stand firm in the place where you have been put to serve your people and have a confidence about that isn't boastful or showy or prideful. You just get to stand up and be a flamingo today because that's how God created you. And this is where he's placed you to do that. And it really is very liberating when we look at that as, you know, flamingos are pink in the middle of an ecosystem that is all blue and green, right? They stand firm in a shallow river surrounded by fisher boats and tourists and crocodiles. And they're not scared. Like you can get within a few feet of them and they are just like, hi, who are you? You know, like nothing shakes them, and they survive in community. They can't be isolated or they die, you know, like so many different things that allows, that can be a lesson to the entrepreneur to be able to stand in who you are and how you're special, how you are unique, not be ashamed of it, and just go and do what you were created to do and not be afraid of the competition or the dangers or the whatever, because the best place for you to be is exactly where you were created to be.
Yeah, so true. So how does that fit in terms of, you know, a client experience for somebody that's listening? It's like, okay, I get it. It's my unique selling proposition. This is who I am. But how do I then relate that to the experience for all of my clients or my potential clients?
Yeah. So here's an interesting story for you. When I was a child, one of my favoriteest things in the world was when my cousins would come visit my grandparents who lived next door, and they would take us on this little vacation trip, and there was a candy store there. And my favorite thing to get was rock candy, because it wasn't available anywhere else. I only ever got it on these special summer trips with my grandparents and my cousins, right? But that was like symbolic to me of fun and of party. And well, now that I'm an adult, I get to choose how to create my own parties for my people. And so whenever we host events for our people, guess what our swag always includes? Rock candy. Right. And so that's just a little way for us to be us and to throw our little flamingo specialness in there in a way that we serve our clients, in the way that we portray working with us is fun, working with us is sweet, working with us is special. You're a rock star. Like there's so many different things you can do. And nobody ever expects to get a package from someone they're working with that has rock candy in it, of all things, right? Like maybe a mug with a logo on it that I don't even want to use in public because it's not my brand, but not a rock candy or, you know, something that you just totally wouldn't expect. And so when you embrace those things that make you special and that make you stand out, you can incorporate them in how you serve your people. But it's also about learning to understand people's love languages and their learning styles. Because I have an education background that I brought into the business world with me. And one of the things that we teach in education is that in order for people to learn, in order for the brain to be safe enough to function and learn, you have to have this safety there. And safety is created when there is no fear involved. And to take away fear, we have to take away the unknowns, and we have to make people feel loved, seen, heard, accepted, right? And that is not something that happens by accident. You have to be intentional with it. Right. And so when we look at people's love languages, which we usually think of in terms of like parents and children or in couples, right? Very rarely does anyone ever talk about it in terms of you towards your clients. But clients also need to feel loved. They, you know, the ones who are gift people love getting gifts free downloads, or a check sheet that'll make things easier and simpler, or a template, or even a gift in the mail, or a card or something, and in your people who love physical touch, everybody's like, well, I can't do that, like, oh my goodness. Well, what if you sent them a card that said, I'm so happy that you're going to be our client now. I wish I could hug you, but here's a card instead. Mm-hmm. Right? Just that imagery of the wording makes that physical touch person imagine the hug, like they feel like you have just reached out and hugged them in a way. And so there are ways to incorporate all of these different things into your marketing and your onboarding and the way that you serve your people through your products and services, and celebrate them along the way. That goes a lot further when you're incorporating those special touches that makes you you.
Mm-hmm. Well, and we all just want to be seen and heard, right? And so your clients are coming to you because you, one, can support them in relieving them of the pain that they're in, right? Your program, your package, your mastermind, whatever it is that you're doing, fills that gap and gets them to where they want to be. But then doing it from a experience perspective takes it that much further. And I'm sure that's probably what has supported you. I think I saw somewhere on one of your web pages that you have like an 80% re-enroll rate. I'm sure that probably has a lot to do with it. Would you agree?
Yes. We have a very high re-enrollment rate and even in our high ticket programs, because of the experience that we're creating in creating a safe space for people to be seen and heard, and to create connections with one another.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. That's fantastic. Now, let's kind of shift gears. So that actually, first, I still want to stay with client experience.
Sure.
So when you're fulfilling upon your program and you've got, group coaching, or you've got one-on-ones and all of these things, what are some other little tips that you would suggest supporting people with, that looking from the perspective of the love languages on how to create even more of an experience?
Well, I think for the people who are acts of service, like look at how can you make something faster or easier or simpler for someone? That's an act of service, right? And whether or not you call it that, it's interpreted as that. And so including templates in your program, doing, maybe your service is not a done for you, but there's a piece of done for you that could be included. Maybe there's a connection that you could make where instead of just saying, oh yeah, call my friend so-and-so, you could actually make the introduction, right? Mm-hmm. That is a form of service, making things easier for someone, paving the way for them. For the people who are words of affirmation people, you need to have evaluation or feedback that they can get, either get questions answered, get words of praise, get affirmation. If they're struggling, make sure it's a safe place where they can come, even if they have questions, and not feel like their questions are stupid, right? And get answers and get affirmation that this is not a dumb question. Everybody starts in the same place. We all go through this. We've all got the same questions. How can we help? And you're doing great, and giving that encouragement for the things that you see. In your program or in your course, there should be certain milestones that you have. How are you celebrating your folks? And
that's a good one.
Do you even, is there something built in that will let you know so-and-so has passed the milestone, let's celebrate them? Or how could you build it in? And then what does that look like? Is it a card? Is it a post in the community group? Is it a voice message from the teacher? What does that look like for that recognition? And that's going to make a big difference on the person. Because I don't know about you, Shay, but when I was in elementary school, I had a teacher that was my favorite teacher, right? And every time I say this, people smile, because all of us had that person. Right. And you know what? I don't remember anything she taught us in science class or math class, right? But I just remember how I felt when I was with her. Mm-hmm. She just made everybody like the center of attention all at the same time. She made everybody feel good about their work. And I don't even remember that was anyone saying or any one comment she made, right? It was just the way she was. And your people are going to get the transformation because you're the expert. You know how to get them there. But how are they going to remember that experience? Because the experience is really going to be the thing that turns them either into somebody who did it and is done and moves on, or somebody who becomes a raving fan and goes out and tells other people that they have to work with you because this was such an amazing experience.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that is definitely a huge difference. And makes you more of a flamingo, right? You stand out because you're actually pouring into your audience and you're seeing them where they're at, and you're seeing them in the way that they want to be seen versus through your lens and how you want to be received, right? I love that. I mean, and I do see out there in the marketplace where people are just all about the numbers and all about the money and all about, let's just do wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, often running, when in reality, yeah, that works for some. It works for the ones that are very direct and that's their language. And maybe that's who they're attracting. Fantastic. They're being their own flamingo. But if that's not you and you do it a different way, how can you show up? And you can still be powerful in what it is that you're doing and what it is you're offering, and how do you make a difference and create that wave of change, which is why we're all here, right? Creating our own powerful impact. So thank you for that. My next question revolves more around, somebody that is on here and they're like, okay, this is great, Katie. I love it. I'm all about incorporating the experiences. But in order to create the experiences, I've got to have the clients and they're coming in and I've made sales, but I don't have a huge, massive list. I'm nearly at 6 figures, or maybe I'm at multiple 6 right now. But I'm doing it all myself. Kind of winging it. What would you tell them? Like, is there some type of system that you would recommend to create consistent list building so that they can then incrementally grow their programs and their launches?
Well, it's different for everyone, and there's so many different variables, obviously, but the system that works is getting out there every day. How do I get visible today? And what I see with the people that I work with is that the biggest problem in growing our visibility is simply the lack of consistency. Yeah. We think we're doing enough already, or we think we're going to make somebody mad because we're putting it out there again. And the fact of the matter is we care way more about us than they do. Right? Like it really, the algorithms work against you. Nobody is seeing everything you put out there. And if they're not happy that you're putting yourself out there to grow your business, they're not your right fit person anyway. So why do you care what they say? Right? Like if this is the way you were created to show up and change the world, you need to tell the world, because if you don't tell them, they won't know. And then secondly, I would say, don't leave it all to yourself, because like I said before, a flamingo who is isolated from the flock, from the flamboyance, dies. You have to have community if you're going to continue to thrive and grow. And as a community, you find better resources together and you grow together. And as a community, you have safety as the flamingos have safety as they travel. As you grow, you have safety because you have these different perspectives that you can lean into. And whether that means team that you hire part-time or full-time or whatever works for you, or whether that means surrounding yourself with other people who can speak into your business in a coaching program or a mastermind or a support group of some kind, you need to have people around you if you're going to grow this thing. You can't keep doing it all yourself. The things that got you here are not going to get you to the next level, right? And so a lot of us, I think, especially as entrepreneurs, we kind of get caught up in the whole solopreneur thing, and it becomes sort of a pride issue or a title or oh, look at me. But that's great for that season. But what season are you moving into? Right. And so as you grow and your desire for impact grows and your ability for greater impact grows, you're going to have to get some more people involved. And that doesn't mean that it's a weakness on your part. In fact, it gives you more opportunity for impact, because now not only do you have an audience that you're influencing, you have clients you're influencing, now you have a team that you get to influence and mentor and raise up with the same culture that you've created inside of your client base. And so that's what I would say. Consistency, number one. And then number two, start looking at how do I build a team to support me so that I can eventually, sort of hand this off, give the dream to somebody else. If this is a business you want to just die with you, then okay, maybe you don't need a team, right? And maybe you don't need to grow because you don't want it to continue. But if you want it to continue to have an impact even after you are gone, then at some point you're going to have to teach somebody to do what you do and start handing off some of these things so you can focus on the vision and the direction and the impact while everybody else gets the day-to-day and the task things done.
Absolutely. And that's what scaling and leveraging is in your business. I know you've done that for yourself, is gone through that system specifically, correct? Like doing it all yourself to then bringing on team and then allowing them to take over the pieces so that you can really be in the parts where really need you. Right. And as we continue to scale and grow, even for myself, every single level, it's kind of like, oh, but I'm the only one that can do that. And you go, are you sure? Are you really sure that you're the only one that can do that one thing? I don't know. Let's look at it. And that's where the mentorship and everything comes into play and being a part of the mastermind group. So I love that. I also love the piece that you're talking about of, being consistent. So we're taking our puppies over to puppy training school, right? And one of the teachers was saying, don't worry, nobody else is paying attention to you and your dog. They're all worried about themselves and their dogs, right? Like they are not paying attention to, oh, your dog is having a fit and a breakdown right now, or having a barking fit or whatever. Same thing in business, right? That's where the consistency comes in. That's where you keep training. That's where you keep showing up and your audience is looking for you. So I absolutely love that. Holy cow, this is flying by so incredibly fast. I know you mentioned something a little bit earlier, and it actually ties into the gift that you have for our audience here. Can you share a little bit more on the gift?
Sure. So we wrote a book a couple of years ago called The Flamingo Advantage, surprise, surprise, how to leverage unique, stay relevant, and change the world. And we have an offer for your listeners to be able to get that book for free if you just pay the shipping and handling. And we'll have a link in the show notes for y'all to pick that up. And we would love to have you have that copy and be able to see what is in there. That we talk about mindset, we talk about marketing, and we talk about influence and impact for your people, and doing that all from your unique quirks and the things that make you unique, but with an understanding of this was the way that God made you, right? Like how can we not show up as who God made us when we have that understanding that I was created for this? And when I understand that, then everything becomes easier, it becomes more joyful, and our impact shows that across the board.
Yeah, absolutely. So make sure that you go to the show notes to pick up the Flamingo Advantage and really dive into how you can leverage your unique point of view and who it is that you are and be your own flamingo. So thank you so much for that. As we wrap up here, I would love for you to kind of leave us with, what would be your takeaway or your memorable note that you want to leave our audience with today?
I think the things that make you pink, the things that make you stand out, there's stories in those. Like we've told stories all throughout this episode today. Find that story. Like if you're watching this on video, you're seeing the flower in my hair right now and probably thinking, oh, that's just because she's a weird flamingo, right? But I wear a flower in my hair every day, not because it's good branding, but because it reminds me that God's okay with me showing up and being who I am and loving fun and color, right? And early in my life, that was not something that was okay. It was not something that was praised or encouraged. And as God grew me into who I was becoming, I got to be okay with who I am. And this is my daily reminder to have courage to show up and be who I am, right? Those things that you may feel like are quirks, or things that you might feel like you need to hide, or feel like, oh, who am I to think that this is such a big deal? It's a big deal. Tell those stories. Other people need to hear your stories. They need to hear the message that God is uniquely gifted to you, because that's where they're going to find the courage and the transformation they need to change their lives and do what God has created them to do. So your message matters. Get out there, be the flamingo, and give it.
I love it. Awesome. Thank you, Katie. And thank you, everybody, for joining us on another episode of Creating Powerful Impact. I'm very excited for you to take the lessons and the resources that you learned here today, start implementing them, get the book, and then create even more impact in your own world. So until next time, have an outstanding rest of your day. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to the Creating Powerful Impact podcast. If you are a successful coach, speaker, author, or thought leader who would like to be on this program, simply visit creatingpowerfulimpact.com/guest. If you are someone who got something out of this interview, would you please do me a favor and share this episode on social media? Just do a quick screenshot with your phone and text it to a friend or post it on your socials. Also, if you know somebody that would be a great guest, tag them on social media to let them know about the show and include the hashtag Creating Powerful Impact. I love seeing all of your posts and great guest selections. We are regularly putting out new episodes and content. To make sure you don't miss any episodes, go ahead and subscribe. Your thumbs up ratings and reviews go a long way to help promote the show, and they really mean a lot to me and my team. Want to know more about us? Head on over to our website, graceandeaseproductions.com, or follow me on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Instagram. Just look for Grace and Ease Productions on your favorite platform. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.